Welcome, Katie. I'm so glad to have you
Thanks for having me.
here to just talk about your day. What does today look like?
Oh, a mishmash of all sorts of emotions and colors, and I don't know, just life. Life, messy and chaotic as it is, and just realizing that, I don't know, in the mess, there's exactly where it should be.
And answers, or not answers, and waiting, and yeah,
Yeah.
so much.
Just being okay with it.
It's good. You make mishmash sound peaceful right now.
I just kind of have to go with it because it is what it is. So I can either fight it and get really bent out of shape about it, or just, be. So that's what I've been trying to choose, is just re-anchoring myself and going with it, because sometimes it actually turns out to be better than what I anticipated. So
I like it. Yeah, sometimes you just don't know until later that it was exactly what was needed.
Yeah.
What about the future? How do you see your future, or what's your vision?
It's so funny because being a therapist, my job is literally every day to make goals for people and how to achieve their goals and make them more independent and help them to facilitate that. And I'm the worst about making goals for myself, and I've really in the past tried to avoid that. And I'm in a season right now where I'm expanding and exploring what that would look like, but I need to create goals for myself and make them measurable and actually more concrete. I like to stay in the abstract usually, but that typically means that they're goals that I don't meet and that get pushed off to the side. They're just more ideological rather than useful goals. So I haven't gotten that far yet to actually make goals, but I would say that where I see my future would be drawing closer to the Lord and making more of my life choices based around biblical principles rather than just prayer and what I feel is right. I think I've done that a lot in the past, and so I'm trying to check it better and have that as a looking for confirmation and being sure that the choices that I'm making are aligning with my real true purpose of being a kingdom undercover minister basically. So
I like that. Sometimes we can't trust how we feel, and sometimes
it varies, and I'm fickle, and it's not a good plumb line. So
what are you excited about?
I'm excited about all the things that I'm learning about for healthcare right now. I was aggravated about a situation at work, and I just said, this is outside of my boundary, and I'm gonna explore my other options and make a resume. And I've been in this same position for over 10 years, so it's been out of complacency in a lot of ways, but as I actually started to explore other options and everything, I became more passionate about trying to find a way to stop the great resignation that's happening in healthcare right now. It takes so long to develop the skills to have good clinicians and practitioners to work with the patients that we have. They're very complex, and it takes time to master those skills, and people are just getting burnout left and right, and they're running far away as fast as they can from healthcare, from the bedside. And I believe that that's the best place for us to have an impact. So I've become pretty passionate about trying to find a way to be a change agent and change the healthcare system that we all know has been broken and messed up for quite some time. But everything got kind of put on hold with the pandemic. Any changes that they were trying to implement, there's tons of studies from even back in 2017, 2018, without getting into the nitty gritty of it, of what they wanted to do to increase retention. And it's across all specialties, across all disciplines, physicians, nurses, rehab professionals. And so in trying to look for something else, I ended up actually digging my roots in deeper and wanting to stop. I feel like the little Dutch boy trying to stick my fingers in the the holes of the to plug the holes so that we don't lose any more really good seasoned clinicians anymore, because I believe that our patients deserve it. And I feel like if we continue to have this exodus, then what's going to happen? It's all going to fall apart. And if I get sick, I want somebody knowledgeable to be able to be there and guide me through it. So my hope is that we can just stem the flood, I guess, and find a homeostasis and rebuild and grow.
I love it. I think you're so passionate about a number of things, and such a great therapist and a great friend and person, that I'm excited about what you're doing. So your excitement is causing more excitement.
Well, I don't really know very much about it yet, and tackling deep ingrained system to enact change, I don't even know where to begin. And that's where, like, I've been praying a lot about it, because I know that the Lord knows. And I think that it's going to be something that has a lot of pushback, because a lot of healthcare, you would think that we're innovative and, technologically sound, like we would respond to new technologies and new research, but it's like a 15-year gap for transitioning things that are proven to work into actual practice, and it's just so slow. And I don't think it has to be that way, but I know that there's going to be a lot of resistance to change, and that's where I'm really trying to I'm using this as a season for preparation for me as well, and trying to be open to what that looks like, because I know that it's going to take a lot of resiliency, and the way that you gain resiliency is through getting a lot of no's. So I'm trying to prepare myself for that too.
If someone wants to look for God, amidst a season of preparation and everything that you're talking about, like, where should they look first? My path, like the shortcut through the hedges, I think is the way that I think of it, is worship. That's the fastest route for me, of just having that stillness and quietness, because usually what's keeping me on my side of the hedges and not being able to cut through to like the good stuff is distractions, my own mind churning and going. So whenever I can like zone in on that singular thread, that's whenever I can cross over into his presence. And that'd be my recommendation, is find that like wavelength of resonation. I don't know how to describe it better. I think of it like a tuning fork, like whenever you hit that like right note and it just resonates. So, and who is God to you when you get closer to him and you find him, and you're less about you and more about him?
He's everything. I mean, source of all of it, of my reason for being, my joy, my love, my comfort, my provider. He's everything that's worth anything anyway. I don't know, did that answer the question?
Yeah, I love it, because I think sometimes we can think of God as one or two things, but it's so encompassing, and there's so many good things about him.
Yeah, I mean, whenever nobody else understands or knows what you're going through, he does. He's right there with you. Whether you sense him or not, usually the reason why you don't is because you're too hung up on your own stuff. Or I'll say I'm too hung up on my own stuff whenever I don't sense him. But he's always there.
How would someone who is kind of, learning about God and trying to find him start a relationship with the Lord? Asking him to reveal himself to you. If you knock, he'll answer. If you seek, you'll find him. I mean, all you have to do is open your eyes. And I had a pastor once. It was at a church camp whenever I was younger, and he was brought up, I think, in a Jewish family, but he had really turned hard against it and was atheist. And he set out to prove that God didn't exist. And his name is John Roller, and he dug deep, and he was hard into research, and the deeper he dug, the more evidence he found.
and God revealed himself like layer by layer to him, and that was his testimonial. And I just love that he was seeking so hard, and that's how he found God. Like, anytime that you are actually asking the good questions and you want to know the answers, he'll give them to you. Anytime people ask me hard questions, I may not have the answer, but I know God does. And so all I can do is encourage them, just go ahead and ask. He hears you. He created you. You're already his beloved, whether you recognize it or believe it or buy it or not. He loves you dearly. So just ask.
I love it. Thank you, Katie, for being here. Anything you personally want to share with someone looking at this video, or?
For some reason I had this brought to my mind just a second ago, so I'll share it. It was a testimonial of a man who he was an alcoholic, and he was staying at a beach house, and they had this giant party and everything, and he woke up hungover the next day, and the story was really powerful to me, so I'll just tell it the way he did. He woke up and he looked out and walked out towards the cliff. There was this big cliff where the house was, and it would go down, and the dog ran out of the house, and it was his friend's house and his friend's dog, and he had been the one to let the dog out. So in his still drunken stupor, he stumbled out and was trying to chase after the dog, but somehow the dog got down the cliff and he had to climb down and go get him. Well, the dog kept running down the beach, and there was a whale that had washed up on the shore, and it was, stinky and gross, and the dog had gotten all up in it, and the man was like, oh my gosh, this is disgusting, and he scooped the dog, dragged him back over by the collar, and then he gets back to this cliff, and he's looking at the dog who reeks and is covered in disgustingness, and he's looking up at the cliff where they have to go, and he's like, I'm gonna have to carry him. And he scooped the dog up, and he was in a season where he was running as hard as he could away from God, and right in that moment, as he was climbing halfway up the cliff, it dawned on him, this is a picture of how God loves me. No matter how dirty and filthy and disgusting I am, he is going to carry me through whatever it is that I'm going through, and it doesn't matter how awful I smell, or how, associated with death and all up in it that I've tried to get, like this dog just did. He still is going to carry me through it. And so that was his epiphany moment, where God really opened up his mind and his heart to be able to accept who he was, because it was I don't know the details of what he was running from or anything, but he felt really strongly about how he wasn't good enough to be in God's presence, and I know that that's a big barrier for a lot of people, but that just came to my mind, so I'll go ahead and share it. Hopefully it's useful for somebody. But
thank you, I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Katie.
Thank you.